Let's make a video game controller box. Hi everyone and welcome back to my craft room. My name is Kelsey. I also call myself Dinosaur Mama, and today we are going to construct this video game controller box for Father's Day. To grab the free download, check out the description below. You'll have a link to the blog where you can see all of the materials and tools and step-by-step written instructions as well. Let's start in Cricut Design Space. So to start, you will upload this from my blog and into your Cricut Design Space, and I ungrouped everything. And you can obviously change the colors to whatever you want. Just keep in mind, I have all of the buttons grouped by color so that you know which size of the panels go to which piece of the controller. So the joystick, the plus sign, those are all going to be one color because those two pieces go together. And since I made this screenshot, I did change the tabs ever so slightly, like you wouldn't even really notice. I just made them a little bit bigger so that it's easier to work with. I did not include any sort of letters on the controller, so you can customize this if you want to put like a name, or if you want to put whatever you want, like Happy Father's Day with like an exclamation point, like HFD, but I'm just putting the standard letters, and I'm using actually Cricut Sans, which is a free font in Cricut Design Space, and I like never use their fonts, but I'm using it's pretty like a standard video game font. Just a sans, whatever you want to use. And I'm just adding these, again, letters I'm going to leave up to you. So you'll just size them to fit onto these little buttons over here. These gray buttons will be 3D. And then you can change the colors. And I did cut that out with paper. Everything is cut out with 85-pound cardstock. I did one like shimmery cardstock, and then I did black textured cardstock. And so just you cut it out with whatever you have available, whatever you want to use. But this file is actually pretty easy to just upload and go. So once you have everything designed, this box will cut out around 6 inches wide. So it's big enough to like fit a gift card if that's what you're wondering. But you can move everything around your paper. I did end up cutting everything on 12 by 12, so I really didn't need to move anything. And I did everything on medium cardstock and fast setting, but please utilize your machine as the best you know and how you like to cut everything. And per usual, I did already include the perforation marks as I've been doing with all of my SVG files. I hope you've been enjoying this. That way it's just a one kind of upload and go. So you don't have to add or change anything score line wise. It's literally just an upload, change colors, and send over to your machine. And in the best news, I have a new camera stand, so no more shaky table. So I'm very excited about that when I am making my projects. So there's no shaking anymore, which is awesome. It's really helpful so that it's not like hurting on your eyes. But I cut all of my letters out on one sheet. I just did it in 4 different corners, and you'll see these are really delicate. You can also cut out your letters on like vinyl or heat transfer vinyl if that's what you prefer. Totally up to you. And like I mentioned before, I used a textured paper. So one's like a shimmer kind of paper and one's just a textured black. So you're just going to want to make sure when you're assembling that you're keeping that shimmer on the right side or that texture on the right side, because most textured papers or shimmer papers are only one-sided. So just keep that in mind for when you're building everything. So I'm just pulling everything off my mat and organizing it. Make sure you have your buttons organized in the correct way. Again, I organized everything in the file so that the colors match. So I actually did the bigger joystick buttons in matte black, like the matte textured black, and then I did the smaller buttons in the shiny black color, gray color, whatever you want to call it, so that I could utilize that color prep so I could tell the difference. I hope that makes sense. So the first thing that I did was I actually put my letters onto my different buttons. So you can do this first, or you can do this after you assemble the buttons. Obviously, it's totally up to you. But again, just make sure your textured side is up when you are assembling. And I'm using my Barely Arts craft glue here. It's got the thin tip, so it's really helpful for these really small letters. And here I'm going to grab this little Y to show you it up close. Now, I never do this, but After I made this box, I was out on my walk and I realized that I could make these little tabs that make this project a little more 3D, a little more simple. So I made the outside pieces a little bit longer on all of them and a little bit wider on that plus sign looking piece. So these will be easier to fold. And so I skipped ahead so you kind of see that final box up in the corner for now. But I skipped ahead, and what I'm doing is I'm just folding in on those tabs on the side. Again, shiny side out. And now I'm going to curve this. This is going to be for the buttons, and you're going to do this for all of them. So I'll show this once. You don't need to see it 6 times, but it's the same concept. It's going to be rounded. So I'm just putting glue on the inside, and then I'm using my tweezers to hold this together. I am going to say in the materials and tools list that tweezers are kind of necessary for this one. Usually I say they're optional, but because these pieces are a little bit smaller and this is more of like a detailed box that I've ever done, you do need those tweezers to hold this piece shut. So you'll see I'm kind of using them to hold the two ends together, and you want to hold this until it dries. And while I'm holding it, I'm still holding it in that same spot, and see it's still rounded. Like, it doesn't look like a box or anything like that. I am going to add glue to one of the sides of the notches so they're all folded in. I know it's a little difficult to see. I'm going to try to zoom in here. But as you can see, I'm putting glue on those little notches and they are folded down. And then I'm going to grab the button piece. Oh, I was so swift when I did that. And now I'm just going to place it right on top of those. My tweezers are on the inside, so they're not like really blocking it. And I'm just using my finger, and you want to hold this until it dries. And so this is going to make your button. And again, you're going to repeat this for all 6 of those round buttons. It's the same concept. And so you'll have this little round 3D button for your controller. And so there are going to be notches on the other side, like on the inside, and we're going to use that side to put that onto the actual controller. So that is how you're going to assemble all of those buttons. And again, like, I never do this. I never like redo a file after I've already like finished it. But I was walking and it just clicked. I was thinking, I was like, this is how I should do it. It should only have these one little notch in between. And I had to go back and fix this file. So I just wanted to redo this one part. I know it's strange to have the final project sitting there for you to look at, but it's kind of like a nice visual to see where we're heading. But again, I'm folding in on all of those notches, and this is for that plus sign, the moving part of the controller. For some reason, I can't think of what it's called right now, but the joystick. It's not called a joystick, but I'm folding in on all these, and again, I'm using my glue, and I actually attached this one to first, I didn't go around the border, and I'm attaching the ends, and again, I'm going to use my tweezers to hold those shut. And then with my glue, I went around my plus sign. I'm sorry, I can't think of the word. And I just went on each little rectangle, I guess you'd say, little square, each end. And I put the 3 sides of glue. And then what I did was I actually took 3 pieces, so it'll fit perfectly. And you are going to hold this there and hold it in the position until it dries. So this part does take a little bit of time. You're going to want to be patient with yourself. Hold it, let it dry a little bit. You can also use hot glue if you want to work a little bit faster. Just keep in mind, be a little bit more weary. I was trying to think of the word. Like, just don't be as heavy-handed with the glue if you're using hot glue, because you don't want to use too much hot glue and then it gives more of a rise to it and like it doesn't look as clean, I guess you could say. So just use whatever adhesive you'd like to create this pattern, but I'm going around and using this part that we made, this little 3D part, and I'm working my way around the border as close to the edge as I possibly can. And each time there is a notch, that's when you turn. And I apologize, I didn't realize like how far down on my camera I was when I was filming this, but I'm working my way around, holding it with my thumb on the opposite side basically, and then continuing around each side and holding it as it dries. And I'm just being pretty patient with myself as I hold it, because you want to make sure that it's set before you move on to the next section. So once you have everything done and dried, it will look like this, and I'm going to show you it close up. So you have this 3D plus sign, and you'll use the other side again to attach it to your remote control. And now I have all of my buttons assembled. Again, the round ones are all made the same, and then the plus sign was made separately. So just rewatch that if you need a little refresher when you're making them. And then the top and bottom are super similar. So we're going to fold in on these panels that are the side panels, and again, keep in mind which side your texture's on. You'll see me folding the opposite way now because I realized I wasn't using the textured side on the outside. If that matters to you. If it doesn't matter to you, then obviously don't worry about it, but it matters to me. So I'm making sure my texture is on the outside of the box. And then I'm gluing these pieces together with the flap on the inside, and you're going to do that on both sides. And then there's also perforation marks where they're going to fold on the middle too, so it becomes a box. I hope that makes sense. But I'm using my glue. Again, you can use hot glue or even like double-sided tape here if that's what you prefer. But I'm folding those in, and then the notches are going to be glued to the bottom of your controller. The controller is reversible because it's the exact same on both sides, so you don't need to worry about those matching. If you need to flip it over or anything like that, it's exactly the same either way. So again, I want my textured side down this time. I guess you could want it up if you want the texture to be seen. I don't know. I put mine down. And now I'm going through with my glue. Again, you can use hot glue if you want it to dry faster, if you want to use double-sided tape, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to use my glue, and then I'm using pressure with my hand, lining it up where I want. And what I did was I lined it to this like bottom part of the remote. I hope that makes sense what I'm saying. And I'm saying that a lot today, but you're lining it up with the bottom part so that it's even. And I think that's a good way to keep in mind for the top part because you want those to line up as much as possible. And once you have it all set up where you want it to be, I'm just using my tweezers to kind of press it down a little bit here. You can also use a bone tool if you have it, or just your fingers, whatever's easiest. And I'm going to use my hand and just press everything down, make sure that it's nice and set. You don't want any pieces lifting off. So I'm, again, just using my tweezers going around, making sure it's glued down really nicely. And you are going to repeat this exact same step for the top of the box. So this is the bottom of the box. You'll know it's the bottom because it is the smaller part. The top will fit over it. So they are two different sizes. And I'm just speeding through this side because it's the same exact way we just did the other side. So I'm folding in. This is the shiny paper that I used, so I'm keeping that shiny side out. It's also helpful to know which side's the top and which side's the bottom, but if you're doing the box all in one color, then you're fine either way. But again, this one with the shiny paper, the glue took a little bit longer to dry and adhere. And then even when I like redid the controller pieces, the details, it was like really easy to peel off. I attempted to line them up this way, but that did not work. So I pulled it off really, and I just let it glue the way the other one glued. And I ended up adding more glue at the end. So just utilize what you know, use your feelings. I didn't have enough glue the first time. It needed a little more glue because it's shiny. And that's just the way this paper is. Like I find this with glitter paper, shiny paper, things like that have like a little more texture than other papers. So again, I did make my tabs a little bit bigger, so it will be a little bit easier for you to glue your details on to your controller than what you see here. And remember that this part of the controller, the face, is going to want to be on the top. You don't want to glue this on the wrong part. So the top, again, is the part with the bigger box. It will slide over the bottom. That's going to be your top part. So you're going to put this faceplate on first and then go around with glue onto your tabs, and this should be a little bit easier, which actually was easy here too, so don't worry about that. But I did fix it so it's even more user-friendly for you. And you're just going to press it down. Again, you can use hot glue here if it's easier and it will adhere faster. Also depends on the paper that you're using, so just keep that in mind. And you're going to want to do this as straight as possible on here. I'm just cleaning up some of my glue. And you're going to glue this on the same way for all of your pieces. So I have my plus sign, my little moving pad first glued on, and then I'm going to glue on all of my buttons. And you'll see for my buttons, I'm using a little bit more of a heavy hand with the glue. Like I'm giving myself a lot to work with because I want it to really adhere well onto this. And I'm doing it right onto the controller and then placing that button right on. And I'm going to do that same part for the smaller buttons, and you know, for the bigger buttons, we have like the hole to put them in, so we kind of can place them. But for the smaller buttons, you're going to want to put them into a cross pattern. And so I suggest doing this one at a time. I did, when I initially did my trials, do these all at once. Like I drew the drew the 4 dots of glue, and then I realized like they were too close together and I didn't like it. So I highly suggest doing them one at a time. That way you know where your placement is. And I just did a circle of glue and then placed that dot on. I even like moved it around a little bit to really know that the glue was on all of the parts that I needed it to be. And then I moved on to my second button. All in all, this box goes together pretty quickly. And I think it's like a really cute way to give your dad or your husband a gift for Father's Day, or even your boyfriend. And you know, it's a super cute gift box, a DIY gift box. And I'm really proud of it, and I hope you really enjoy creating it with me. And don't forget to check out all of the links below to grab all the supplies and the free SVG file from my blog. Thank you for joining me as we went through how to create this video game controller box. I hope you enjoyed making it as much as I did. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something and you are loving my projects, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. It helps me so much. Stay crafty.